What's up, everybody? It's July 1st, 2020. I'm your host, Justin, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Perry.
What's up, Justin? Hey, I know you're in the Army. Are you an electrician in the military?
I am not.
Oh, man. Well, you could be, man, because you brighten up my day every time I see you.
I was like, man, did he find a Army pickup line? What?
No,
Yeah.
I added the Army into it.
Yeah, it threw me for a loop.
I usually put my own little twist on these just so everybody's aware, but
Yeah.
it's
Make it your
becoming,
own.
we've been doing this for over a year now. It's becoming difficult to find these pickup lines. I'm not exactly sure how many episodes we've done, but it's over 52. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Way
y-
over.
please, in the comments, if you guys have good pickup lines, appropriate ones,
Yeah.
put a
Remember,
comment down there. Let me know.
we're family friendly here.
We are family friendly. We're friendly with all kinds of families.
Yep. And your family can find us on YouTube and subscribe to us. They can also follow us on all social media platforms, or they could listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio, and basically everywhere else.
Basically,
Yeah. See, man, I nailed that.
you nailed it. That was really good. Have you been practicing?
Nope.
Ooh, that's impressive. How are things going?
Good. It's the 1st of July. My birthday's actually in 4 days from now. So
Uh,
I got that
yes.
going on.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Having surgery here in 9 days.
Now, I'm gonna say that's awesome because I know how long you've been wanting this surgery. I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "Wow, Perry, that's rude." No, Justin needs this
Oh,
surgery.
I'm
Trust
so
me.
excited.
Yes, finally, finally.
Get my ankle fixed. I'll be able to run again, be active. Whew.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell a real quick story. So, Justin and our buddy Joel came up to visit me one time, and we went out. We did some bar hopping one night, and it was pouring rain. So we decided to run from one bar to the next bar that we were going to. Justin lagged behind a little bit because of his ankle. He walked into the bar with a pretty severe limp and got immediately cut off because they thought he was so drunk that he was stumbling. But when he walked up to the bartender, they said, "You only get to order once." So he ordered 3 beers and 3 shots for all of us. I always thought that was really funny that they're like, "You can only order once. You're too drunk." And you're like, "Okay, I'll have 6 drinks."
That's completely true, too.
I know it was
Oh,
wild, but no more of that. Now
yeah.
you'll just get cut off because you need to be cut off.
Right? If we can ever go to bars again.
I know, no kidding.
But
Uh,
today, we're actually going to be covering some football,
yeah.
specifically the AFC East. And what a time it is to cover the AFC East.
What a time to be alive. It's almost like we planned it, but we didn't. We didn't plan it. We should have planned it. That would have worked out
I
really
said
well.
I did on our Twitter. You just completely dimed me out that I was lying. I said I coordinated this with Cam Newton to break the news.
Well, you're our social media guy, so that's your problem.
Yeah, the social media backlash is going to be crazy.
Before we do that, I want to start a new thing where I was just talking to Justin. Each episode, I just want to bring up an A/B player comparison. Who do you want? Who do you not want? Who are you drafting? Right? Because I think a lot of your guys' questions break down to that. Right? Should I take player A? Should I take player B? And that's ultimately what happens in your drafting, trying to decide. So I'm just going to bring up
Yeah.
one of those every episode for Justin, and we'll see where he falls.
And if you guys have any of them you want us to do, leave those in the comments.
Yeah, we could even do a quick like 10-minute episode one night and just rifle through like a bunch of them if you guys leave a bunch of comments. So please feel free. Justin, the one I got for you this episode, it's a running back comparison. Would you rather take Melvin Gordon or Jonathan Taylor right now?
Oh, Melvin Gordon, 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because Melvin Gordon, I feel like, is an established running back in the NFL. As much as we love Jonathan Taylor, he is still a rookie coming into the NFL, which is not a guarantee. We all running backs are the easiest transition into the NFL, I would say. So the odds are on his side, but still, it's always a risk with a new player coming to the NFL. Melvin Gordon and him, I actually think will get similar workloads, like splits in the carries. And I know what I'm getting out of Melvin Gordon, so I'm erring on the safe side, as it would likely be my second running back off the board.
So I fall in the Jonathan Taylor camp. I think the Colts are going to have possibly the best offensive line in football this season. I think that Phillip Lindsay is a far better running back than Marlon Mack. So Jonathan Taylor might not get the full workload, week 1, but I think by like week 3, Jonathan Taylor is going to be very, very valuable. And I don't know. I think Melvin Gordon's still going to be good, but I'm taking Jonathan Taylor here. So that helps no one. All right. Again, leave comments if you guys have any A/B comparisons that you'd like us to cover. But
when you say A, are you talking about Antonio Brown?
We'll talk about him in just a second.
Oh, man. Did you read my notes?
Do I have news listed as news that you have listed as news nobody cares about?
There's a very good chance of that.
All right, let's I only have 2 pieces of news that I want to talk about because these episodes are going a little long, so we don't need to cover a bunch of rookie signings. I just don't think they're all that important at the moment. No. Cam Newton finally signed. I think this is the biggest free agency piece to fall, or we are waiting to fall. Devontae Freeman now is the next highest big free agency piece, in my opinion. He signs a 1-year deal with the Patriots. It's worth $7.5 million. Very incentive laden, as the Patriots always do, right? They get these team friendly deals with everybody. It's amazing the way they do this, but it's part of the reason they win all the time. My immediate reaction is this is a slight upgrade to most of the fantasy assets on the team, but not a huge upgrade. I'm not like making Julian Edelman skyrocket or anything like that. I probably still don't want him, to be completely honest with you. I'm not going to talk a lot about it because Justin's going to be covering this team in just probably 20 minutes here. So we'll talk about all the quarterbacks, who we think is going to start, that sort of thing. So everybody just stay patient with the Cam Newton analysis.
Yeah. I'm not even going to say anything about it.
Antonio Brown has been working out with Russell Wilson.
Deleting that out the news no one cares about.
I think it's news that we should at least pay attention to. If he signs with the Seahawks, keep in mind he will probably see a 4 to 8 week suspension right off the bat. So he will not be fantasy relevant at the start of the season, no matter what. If he gets signed, he will not be playing at the start of the season. There's just no way. That being said, if he does sign with the Seahawks, that will move DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett down, just based on the fact that it's another mouth to feed, and he's still a very good player for all indications, right? Everything that we see, or everything we know, Antonio Brown should still be relevant. That being said, he could get suspended again immediately. He could decide that he wants to burn his hands this time. I don't know.
He doesn't like his cleats.
Right. He wants to play barefoot. I don't know. I hope mentally that he's gotten everything worked out. Like I've said this before, I'm rooting for him to get that all sorted out. But it's something to pay attention to. Anywhere he signs, we need to talk about it. But there's no guarantee, right? It would take a lot. It would take a very team-friendly deal, I think, for anybody to sign Antonio Brown, knowing that he could miss the first half of the season immediately.
Yeah, or the entire season.
Or not play at all because X, Y, and Z that happened last season. So,
yep.
And then, sorry, I guess I have 3 pieces. Justin just brought this up, and we wanted to mention it real quick. The supplemental draft has been canceled by the NFL. Yeah. The supplemental draft basically is a draft for players that weren't able to participate in the NFL draft, the first draft that happened in April. A lot of times these are guys that didn't qualify or didn't want to. They just weren't ready physically or whatever it may have been. The only player of like noteworthy player to ever come out of the supplemental draft was Chris Carter, Hall of Fame wide receiver. So not a whole lot of fantasy relevance right off the bat for anybody drafted there.
Yeah.
So not that important, except for the fact that it's been canceled. That makes Justin and I both worried about the NFL season.
And also they canceled 2 weeks of preseason as well.
Yeah. So all we're going to do is continue to give you analysis, assuming that we're going to have a season.
Yeah.
That is not a guarantee by any means. So just be prepared that we might not have football this season, or we might have a shortened season, or whatever it may be. And we already talked about last week how you need to be prepared for players to miss time due to COVID. If a player tests positive, it's a guaranteed 2 weeks out. I'm telling you right now.
I highly encourage you guys to increase your bench sizes in your leagues and do stuff like this to prepare for it.
Yeah. One interesting thing that I was reading is rather than prioritizing a handcuff like Tony Pollard, well, I'm going to use Ezekiel Elliott as an example, even though he's already got COVID and we are assuming that he can't get it again. If you get a handcuff like Ezekiel Elliott or like Tony Pollard for Ezekiel Elliott, and Zeke were to have COVID, there's a fair chance that Tony Pollard also has COVID. So maybe build for depth rather than getting Tony Pollard, go get somebody like Jordan Howard, who you know is going to get work on a different team.
And the reasoning for that is because they're in the same positional group, so they're going to be in the same room studying tape, things like this. So playing in close proximity to each other.
Yeah. It's something I've been thinking about. I wanted to bring up that handcuffs are kind of dangerous this year. So just prepare yourself, and we'll just continue on as if football's going to be played.
All right. Well, before we get into this, though, I do have some news no one cares about. I'm starting off strong here with Rex Ryan. Always good for news no one cares about. He says he is stunned that teams passed on Cam hours after a report came out that Cam only considered New England to sign to.
I heard that Cam only considered. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there was the Browns showed interest in him.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like this report came out that Cam only considered the New England, and then hours on the same platform that Rex Ryan works for, which is ESPN. And then Rex Ryan comes out on ESPN and says he was stunned that teams passed on him.
Amazing. Rex Ryan's insight amazes me every time I hear it.
Give this man another opportunity in the NFL.
Better than Adam Gase, who I'll mention plenty today.
As will I. Which is funny because I'm not even covering the Jets. You are. All right. Next piece of news no one cares about. Julian Edelman sent out a tweet today, I believe, that said Newton, Massachusetts, which then Tom Brady promptly replied to and said, "I will always be your number one."
Yeah, I like that. A little bit of trolling back and forth, friendly trolling.
Yeah, it's so funny because he probably sent it, and I could just see Julian Edelman being like, "Yeah, you're right."
Yeah. Julian Edelman's like, "Get me out of here." Yo, I heard Tampa Bay needs wide receivers.
Right. Ezekiel Elliott forgot to end his live stream after streaming while he was playing video games, and then he's like finishes playing game, and then he says into his mic to whoever he's playing with, "Oh, bro, I'm low-key faded." Before seconds later realizing that he hasn't ended the live stream and being like, "Oh man, I forgot to end the live stream," and then ending the live stream.
Incoming random drug test.
Right. Good luck, Easy.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, that's all the news no one cares about.
Right on. That was a good news no one cares about, Justin.
Thank you. Pride
Okay,
myself
so
on it.
everybody should be pretty familiar with the format that we're gonna be going through here. We're gonna cover the four teams in the AFC East, formerly dominated by the Patriots. I think I'm kind of excited to see how this plays out, just as a football fan, on who's going to win this division for the first, for not the Patriots probably. I guess I'm assuming, although Cam Newton there might change that. But we're just going to cover the quarterbacks and go down the depth chart: running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. So Justin and I will just bounce back and forth between positions here.
Perry, I got a bold prediction though.
Yeah?
It will not be the Jets.
Wow, that's pretty bold. All right, let's start here. Let's start here with Josh Allen. We'll start with quarterback for the Bills, Josh Allen, flying up, or not even flying up, just sitting way up in ADP
just sitting
right now.
Comfortably atop ADP.
Yeah, I'm a little bit hesitant about Josh Allen after going over some of his statistics from last season. In particular, I know that rushing is going to make him fantasy relevant, right? I think it's pretty much a guarantee if he plays all 16 games that he will be a top 12 quarterback. Pretty much that's a guarantee. But I think that for the same reason that Lamar Jackson concerns me a little bit and how early he's going, I get the same concerns about Josh Allen. Teams can scheme against the quarterback rush. They really can. They can slow it down if they want to. And if they slow him down even a little bit, especially on the goal line where he had 9 rushing touchdowns last season, it's going to hurt his fantasy relevance quite a bit. He had a 59.8 completion percentage last season, Justin.
Yeah, I know.
That's really, really bad.
I have a buddy that refers to him as the white Cam Newton because he's a mobile quarterback that likes to call his own number inside the red zone and likes to throw the ball deep, but is very inaccurate.
Yes, very inaccurate. He only had in 2019 2,742 passing yards. He did miss 2 games, but I mean, with what his averages were, he would have been like breaking 3,000 was not a guarantee. And I get that the rushing total is supposed to be what carries him, but there is a very low floor here, in my opinion. Should he have like a lower leg injury that allows him to continue to play but slows him way down and on his rushing, Josh Allen will be horrible if he continues this passing pattern. And the fact that right now he is, I believe, 7th for quarterbacks. Yes, he's ranked 7th, just behind Deshaun Watson, just ahead of Matt Ryan. I'm not getting him. There's no way that I'm gonna reach up and grab Josh Allen when I can just get Drew Brees, who's currently ranked 10th. I think there's a lot more consistency in Drew Brees. There's a lot more consistency in Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, all these guys that I don't have to reach way up to grab Josh Allen for. That being said, as long as he stays healthy, he will be a top 12 quarterback. There's no doubt. We'll talk about his weapons in a moment, but that's where I fall on Josh Allen. Do you have any insight there, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, I'm completely on board with all of that. I don't think I've had a mock draft that I've taken him in because of the risk.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of Cam Newton, I'm just going to go ahead and get into the Patriots. No beating around the bush here, straight into Cam Newton going to the Patriots. First of all, anonymous AFC head coach said New England loves Stidham and he may start week 1. That being said, Adam Gase is an idiot and Cam Newton is starting. I know that was you, Gase. It's not anonymous. It was dumb enough to know who it was. All right. So
I will say that I don't know if it's a guarantee. If I'm putting my money down, Cam Newton starting, and I'm pretty confident about it, but they really like Stidham.
Yeah, but they also brought in Cam Newton.
For cheap.
Yeah, but they
Yeah.
didn't bring in, backup quarterback. They brought in a guy to start basically, or I guess you could say compete to start. Which doesn't tell you that they have a lot of faith in Stidham.
I would say there's like an 85% chance that Cam Newton starts week 1. By week 3, there's like a 99% chance that Cam Newton's a starter. So I'm very, very confident, but I'm just, until we get into a training camp that, may or may not happen, I'm not going to say it's a guarantee just yet.
I think as long as Cam Newton is healthy, he's the starter for the Patriots. There's no way that he loses the job when they're competing for it. You know what I mean? But yeah, that being said, Cam Newton, obviously a mobile quarterback with a big arm, but also a big injury risk, which I'm hoping to get Dr. Ben back on here soon because he talked me out of Cam Newton last year. So I definitely want to get his input because of the injury risk. He's had a year off of not playing. He did throw for 500 yards in 2 games last season, which he didn't even finish the second game. So that's pretty amazing.
He was off to a hot start.
Yeah. I'm not going to go too much into the weapons and stuff like that because I'm really going to break down more into Cam as I talk about his effect on these other players. But I will say I have him outside of my top 12 quarterbacks currently, around the 14 to 16 range. So right below there, he definitely has upside to be well inside there, but I currently have him just outside because of the injury risk and just the way that team is built.
And I will say that if he does land outside the top 12, it'll be the first time in his career where he played a full season. And I'm just going to assume he's going to play a full season when I'm talking about like these projections and stuff, but the injury risk is a big part of it.
Yeah. As I'm talking through all of these, I'm assuming he's playing the full season.
Yeah. And the last part about Cam Newton, I don't think that his weapons are any worse there in New England that he's had when he was a Panther.
I actually think his wide receivers are better.
There is a definite argument to be made that they are better for sure. Okay, we're going to move on to Sam Darnold, the darling of the Jets. Sam Darnold had mono last season, so he did miss quite a bit of time. Projecting him out for the 2019 season, though, if he had played the whole season, he'd have around 22 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. That's not a great stat line for a quarterback. I don't really have a whole lot to talk about with Sam Darnold. I think that he's a low end quarterback with like mid to high end quarterback 2 upside. If he hits high end quarterback 2, it's because he had a massive improvement in his play. It would have to be pretty significant for him to hit that point. He will go in a 2 quarterback league because you kind of have to. I'm going to be upset with myself if in my 2 quarterback leagues I end up with Sam Darnold. It means I made a mistake earlier in the draft. That being said, I do expect him to improve this season. But I just don't think it's going to be significant enough for him to even tickle the top 12, which is really what we were worried about. So for all intents and purposes, avoid Sam Darnold until further notice. Hopefully we're wrong, because I do think that he has potential, but Adam Gase is still the head coach there, and Adam Gase is still terrible at his job.
All right, so speaking of quarterbacks that will be outside the top 12, I got 2 more of them for you with the Dolphins quarterbacks because
you be careful here.
Who's going to be their starter?
Careful.
They got Fitzpatrick and Tua there.
That's not how you say his name.
I know, but I just wanted to make sure I said it correctly the first time, because it was the rest of the time I literally have Fitzmagic typed.
As you should.
So I wanted to make sure I at least said it right once, so that way if someone's new, they're like, who is this Fitzmagic person? So I have Fitzmagic starting the season off until week 6 in my projections. Which there's multiple reasons for this. One, that's how history works. He starts off on a hot streak, and then it fades out around week 5. But more importantly,
That's a magical run, though.
yeah, the teams they play in the first 5 weeks, 4 of those teams are the 49ers, New England, Buffalo, and then the Seahawks. So
Ooh, I'm excited for that one.
I think that, and the Niners are actually the week 5 matchup. So I feel like after that, they're going to be like, all right, Tua, here's your shot.
As Fitzmagic gets dragged off the field in a stretcher.
Yeah, like it's just going to be brutal the first 5 weeks, and they don't want to put Tua in that situation, especially taking unnecessary hits from the likes of those defenses. Yeah. So I think they're going to give Fitzmagic his shot to start, and I just don't foresee that going well against those defenses. On the positive side, though, they will be losing those games, and that's magic time. So
that is magic. It's a magic moment.
He's going to be throwing the ball a lot. Neither one of these quarterbacks are finishing in the top 12 because they're not playing a full season. Both of them are going to be playing half a season. So it's that's going to be hard to start. I mean, in a 2 quarterback league, I could see actually starting Fitzmagic until he is benched in a 2 quarterback league, and then grabbing, Tua or someone else, in a streaming type of situation. But both these guys will definitely be streamable type quarterbacks. And if your quarterback doesn't pan out, if you get a late round quarterback, Tua may be a guy that you look at for the second half of the season.
Yeah. And if Tua doesn't start as soon as Justin's saying, and for some reason Fitzpatrick is still starting, and they're playing somebody like the Saints, where you imagine that it could be a shootout, that could be a fun streaming option. That could absolutely turn out pretty well. But that's something that we'll talk about that as it comes around. Don't draft either of these guys unless you're in Dynasty or 2 quarterback league.
And I definitely have a decrease coming to the wide receivers and a slight increase coming to the running backs once Tua takes over.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the running backs now that you mention it. I'm going to talk about the Bills running backs first. We'll talk about who technically is the number 1 running back on the roster at the moment. That is Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary has an ADP of 47 right now. It's very high for a guy that was already getting vultured goal line carries by his quarterback. They just brought in Zach Moss, who is an incredible goal line running back. Devin Singletary's touchdown chances are horrible at the moment. I really liked Devin Singletary last season as he came into the NFL. I thought that he had the skill set of a 3-down back in a really bad situation, and he did okay with what he got last season. And I think that's why he is currently so ranked so highly. But for me, he's an RB3 right now, as crazy as that is to say. And because he has an ADP of 47, I will not be getting Devin Singletary. Looking at the rookie that was drafted here, though, Zach Moss has an ADP of 151. Zach Moss is way down draft boards, and he's going to be the goal line guy. And then assuming Devin Singletary, if he gets hurt for any reason, Zach Moss is a top 15 running back week in, week out, in my opinion. The value in Zach Moss is incredible at the moment. I really, really like Zach Moss. I'm going to be trying to get a bunch of Zach Moss shares because he is essentially free, and he could end up being a top 15 running back in fantasy. Which of these 2 guys do you like more, Justin?
I mean, I definitely like Singletary more, like, if we're in a vacuum.
Yeah.
But like when you take into the ADP into account, yeah, you gotta think about that. But I still like Singletary just because I think I can get him as my 3rd running back if I go running back. in a draft.
I I mean, I'm just looking around who Devin Singletary's around. Raheem Mostert, I'd rather have. I think there's more of a guarantee of work there with Raheem Mostert. DeAndre Swift is right after him. I think I'd rather have DeAndre Swift,
I
even
would
though
rather
there's
have
questions there.
Swift. I'd rather have Swift, but I'd rather have Singletary than Mostert.
I'm more and more afraid of Singletary. The Josh Allen's going to be still taking goal line carries. Now Zach Moss is going to be taking goal line carries.
Yeah.
The chances of Devin Singletary
Mostert,
scoring a touchdown.
You got to worry about, Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon.
I'm not worried about Jerick McKinnon. Tevin Coleman, sure, but I'm not worried about Jerick McKinnon.
They keep him there. I don't know why. Debo Samuel's even stealing carries.
Who's might start on the PUP. So
yeah, but eventually he's going to steal carries. But I'm just saying there's more people in San Francisco I'm worried about stealing carries from Mostert. Like, I think Devin Singletary is the starter for sure the entire season if he's healthy. I don't think that's the case with Mostert.
I don't know if it's as guaranteed as him being the starter. I just don't. They spent a lot of draft capital on Zach Moss, and I think they plan on using him. And if he's successful, it could be really ugly for Devin Singletary. I think there's a really high level of risk there. Your turn.
Okay. Man, I got the New England running backs, which is gross. You have Sony Michel, James White, Rex Burkhead, and Damian Harris. And man, these running backs. So it's New England. So I'm going to go right off the bat and tell you I don't like them. Any of them. But I think Cam is overall a net plus to the running back core. As a mobile quarterback, it forces the linebackers to hesitate. They can't just shoot a gap and fill it and get the running back as easily like on running plays. They hesitate to see whether the Cam's going to keep the ball, take off with it. So it usually with a mobile quarterback, you'll see the yards per carry and yards before contact increase with running backs. So I think just taking that into account, you're going to see a benefit to the running backs here. That being said, we've seen Sony Michel super inefficient. Rex Burkhead as well, Damian Harris. I think he's super late in drafts and maybe a player that you could target. And then James White, I think he's the biggest benefactor here because also, as I talked about, once they get inside the 10 zone, Cam Newton loves to call his own number and just, if they're at the 1 yard line, Cam Newton will just take the ball and dive forward for a yard and get the touchdown and do a Superman dance and give the ball to a kid in the stand, which I love to see. But I think that's going to really hurt Sony Michel because that's his role is like, let me run 1 yard. I can do that. Mm-hmm. But White, on the other hand, I think he's not being affected in a negative way at all. And so with the net benefit for all the other reasons, he's going to be the most benefited running back in this situation. And if I had to choose one of these running backs to own, it would be James White. Yeah,
you basically took the words right out of my mouth. Sony Michel for me is untouchable at this point, and he was almost untouchable before the touchdown vulture landed there. I'm not going to own Sony Michel on any team. I think James White bumps up here a little bit. He'd still have to land in the right spot in the draft for me to even consider taking him. But I do think that he could have a pretty decent season with Cam Newton as his quarterback. Okay. Moving on to the Jets running backs. Adam Gase again. Here we go. Le'Veon Bell is, I still think, one of the most talented running backs in the NFL. I think that he's extremely patient behind the line, finds really great gaps. But I think Adam Gase is an idiot, and therefore Frank Gore is going to get a lot of carries. Frank Gore probably shouldn't be on a team, but he is. It's just, it's who Frank Gore is. He's going to get goal line work. It's what he did for the Bills last season. He got a lot of the goal line work, which is part of the reason that Devin Singletary wasn't as good as I expected him to be. LaMichael Pirine, though, I'm actually pretty high on this kid. I've been doing some reading about him getting prepared for this show, and I think LaMichael Pirine is going to get work. He was in my top 10 rookie running backs coming in. He was actually he was my sixth running back coming into the draft. Unfortunately, this season he's got a lot to compete with. A huge contract in Le'Veon Bell that team paid for him, and they're going to get work out of him no matter what. I think a lot of people that are saying that this is going to be a 50-50 where Le'Veon Bell gets 50% of the work and then LaMichael Pirine and Frank Gore combine for 50% of the work. I don't think it's going to be quite like that. But there is talk about Le'Veon Bell being traded some point this season, especially if the Jets are not in contention, which they won't be. So I would say there's like at least a 60% chance that Le'Veon Bell is not on this team at the end of 2020. If that happens, LaMichael Pirine, he is going to go way up my draft board. He's currently almost undrafted in redraft leagues. If you have a deeper bench, which you should because of COVID, which we just spoke about, last round pick LaMichael Pirine, I like that a lot. There's upside here, and you're putting nothing in for him. That being said, Le'Veon Bell, I've expressed on this show that I actually like Le'Veon Bell because he's going fairly late in drafts. He could be your third running back pretty easily if you go running back. And there's guaranteed workload here. And he doesn't have a quarterback that's going to vulture goal line carries from him. Frank Gore might, though. So that's something that we need to pay attention to.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually have Le'Veon Bell and Singletary ranked pretty similar in my rankings, with Lev Bell over him, though.
I think I would rather have Lev Bell because I think there's more guaranteed work there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, next I got the Dolphins running back. So we got Jordan Howard and Matt Breda, which is kind of crazy because neither one of these guys were there last year. They still have the two guys that were there last year, but they are both completely irrelevant at this point because of what they did last year. So Jordan Howard is going to be the lead back here. I've been seeing more and more talk lately, people taking Matt Breida over Jordan Howard. And they're ranked very close together with their ADP. But Jordan Howard, like, he's shown he can be that 3-down back, and they're going to bring Breda in to be the change of pace and maybe a pass catching back because for whatever reason, nobody wants to throw Jordan Howard the ball. The running backs will likely struggle out of the gate here, though, just because the defenses I talked about them facing right away. So just keep that in mind. Like, that's going to be kind of rough, but you're not drafting these guys in a spot where you need to start them immediately. I just want some expectation management. Don't drop like Jordan Howard because he's sucked for 4 weeks. You know, there's light at the end of this tunnel. Trust me.
Yeah. And he's depth.
Yeah.
Right. He's a perfect example of what I was trying to talk about maybe instead of taking your handcuff, go grab somebody like Jordan Howard and just let him sit there because you might need him one week.
His ADP is mid 10th round.
Yeah.
So definitely depth. You've already filled every roster spot on your team you needed to, and he's just sitting on your bench there waiting for a week to play where you need him. So, and then Breda going right behind him, I think will lead. So I think Howard is going to lead in yardage and carries and touchdowns, but I think Matt Breida is likely going to have the edge in receptions, having more receptions, giving him a little bit more value in PPR, not more value than Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard will still be the more valuable back in any scoring platform.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. All right, let's move on to some wide receivers. We're going to get into the Buffalo wide receivers here. The new big name in town is Stefon Diggs. I think Stefon Diggs, right off the bat, I think that he's top 10 talent in the NFL. I think Stefon Diggs is a very, very good wide receiver. Unfortunately, he went from an anemic passing offense to an almost non-existent passing offense in Buffalo, right? They really put the reins on Kirk Cousins last season, and I think it probably worked out well for the team as a whole. I think they were a better team, but they are a rushing team, and so are the Bills. Uh, Stefon Diggs had 94 targets last season. He's going to need at least 100 targets to really crack that like mid wide receiver 2 territory. I currently have him slotted as a low end wide receiver 2, and that's assuming he gets around 100 targets. Now Cole Beasley and John Brown both had over 100 targets last season. I think most of the targets that are going to go to Stefon Diggs are going to come from Cole Beasley. Beasley for me is officially done when it comes to fantasy, so he's irrelevant. John Brown, on the other hand, if you're just looking for some depth, like we've been talking about, his ADP is far deeper than Stefon Diggs, and Stefon Diggs is still a hot name, and I think that he's going to be drafted early, especially in a lot of home leagues where people are like, Stefon Diggs, he's the new number one wide receiver. I want him. I'm not going to fall into that trap, and I recommend you don't. I'm not going to be grabbing Stefon Diggs unless for some reason he ends up being my like third wide receiver, which right now with his current ADP, probably not going to happen. So John Brown could be my fourth or fifth even wide receiver, and that's a way better value. I still think that John Brown could see 100 targets and still could be relevant on weeks where you just need somebody to slide in there due to an injury, COVID, or bye week.
I do need to rewind us real quick though to the previous position for the Buffalo Bills. I believe you forgot to mention a player.
Who?
At the running.
Oh, I even had it written down. It's right here. It's special shout out to the number one running back, TJ Yeldon.
Oh man, gets my blood boiling.
I even wrote it down, and I was looking at literally I had a plan. I was like, so the only person you need to draft on this team is TJ Yeldon. Enough said. That was my plan, and
and you forgot it.
Oh. I screwed the pooch on that one, buddy.
Oh man, TJ, you and me. Nothing physical, please. Like chess.
Oh, I was like, chess. Ooh, I really want to watch Justin fight TJ Yeldon.
Yeah, a game of chess. I don't know, a Fortnite match. I've never played it, but I think I have a better shot at it than a real fight.
I don't know. Anything, please. TJ, get at me. You and Justin. You name the battle.
Oh God, I'm down no matter what. But all right,
your turn, man.
All right, I got lost. We're talking wide receivers. That's right.
In TJ Yeldon's eyes.
Yeah. Oh, and my hatred for him. Wide receivers. I'm talking about the New England wide receivers, which is Julian Edelman, Mohamed Sanu, Nikhil Harry, and Marquise Lee. So, I think Cam Newton coming here actually hurts Julian Edelman.
100%.
Yeah, because Cam Newton is not an accurate passer like Julian Edelman is used to seeing by getting, the Tom Brady threading the needle to this guy where you can catch it and do what he does. Cam Newton likes to throw it deep down the field to big body wide receivers, that are moving down the field quickly, or just a big 50-50 guy who can get up and for these contested catches. Back to Kelvin Benjamin, Ted Ginn. You just seen these guys. Ted Ginn.
I hope you were trolling me there.
I was watching your response.
God. Go on.
I forget you can't see me during this recording. But anyway, Cam's not going to be threading the needle. He's not Tom Brady. I think this is a huge benefit to Nikhil Harry, especially, and Mohamed Sanu, but specifically Nikhil Harry to me. I gave Harry the biggest bump in my rankings, but I think the ball will be spread out some. I'm not expecting him to completely explode and have a breakout like season where he's a top wide receiver, but I do think he's going to be fantasy relevant. I think Nikhil Harry's a guy you can grab pretty late that's going to have a good year.
Yeah, Nikhil Harry gets a huge bump for me here. I understand that he did not live up to the hype last season. It's a completely different situation there now. And I think they spent a lot of draft capital on him. They're going to give him the opportunity. And that outside wide receiver has always been a favorite of Cam Newton. So it's somebody I'm willing to take a flyer on.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about the Jets wide receivers. So on the surface here, I think a lot of people are expecting either Breshad Perriman, the new guy that they've brought in, or Jameson Crowder to end up being the number one target here. I am not buying into Breshad Perriman being the number one target. I'm not on board whatsoever. Jameson Crowder, there's a possibility. I think that he's proven that he is reliable, and I think Sam Darnold is going to lean on that, especially if they have they're already having a shortened off season, so there's not going to be a lot of time for Denzel Mims to build that relationship before the start of the season. But I do like Denzel Mims, and there is a world where Denzel Mims is the number one wide receiver on the Jets. He's also almost undrafted. He's moving up draft boards currently. He's at 194, but you don't have to spend a lot on him is my point. You also don't have to spend a lot on Crowder, to be honest with you either. Crowder currently going, let's see here. I just had him pulled up. He's a 47th ranked wide receiver, Jameson Crowder. My one issue with taking Crowder there is he's right around Jerry Jeudy, Justin Jefferson. I think I'd rather have either one of those guys because the potential is just so much higher. Rookie wide receivers, both in pretty good situations, if not really good situations. So, and part of the reason why I like Denzel Mims is because of that as well. Rookie wide receiver in a really pretty decent situation. So, I'm telling you, if you want to grab one of the older guys, grab Crowder, not Perriman. If you want to play upside here and play value, get Denzel Mims.
Yeah, I'm team Mims here.
Yeah, I think I am as well. But all I'm saying is I wouldn't be surprised if we finish the season and Crowder's got 120 targets,
absolutely
900 yards and 6 touchdowns, would be a great season for where he's being drafted.
No, but my thing is I also wouldn't be surprised if those roles were reversed and for the price of each one of those guys, I'm going Mims.
Exactly. Yeah, me as well.
All right, I got the Dolphins wide receivers. So we got Devante Parker.
So I'm gonna come clean real quick. The reason I told you to do the Dolphins is because I did not want to talk about Devante Parker.
Well, Devante Parker set his career high catches in 2019. 72.
No one cares.
Receiving yards also career high, 1,200 yards. Also career high in touchdowns, 9 touchdowns. Also career high in targets, 128 targets. So I think he's going to have a hot start right out of the gate with Fitzmagic, because Fitzmagic makes fantasy stars. That's what he does. That's his magic ability, is to make fantasy points out of thin air. So they're going to be playing from behind, which means they're going to be throwing the ball for the first 5 weeks. So I think he's going to start off on a hot streak, and then you're going to watch whenever Tua comes in, which I'm predicting to be week 5, but it could be week 6, it could be week 4, whenever it is. Tua will inevitably take over that job, and then that connection that he made with Fitzpatrick is gone. I'm expecting the yardage per game to come down, them actually to win a few more games than normal. So like it's going to change how the game is. Definitely better for the Dolphins as a team, but worse for the wide receivers. I think that it's definitely going to hurt him. I still think he's still going to be fantasy relevant. I just wonder if that is going to, the amount it hurts him is going to make you regret him drafting him in the 7th round where he's currently going. I usually don't draft him in mock drafts or doing.
I'm completely okay with missing out on Devante Parker's next breakout season. Now, that what I'm trying to say there is I see that there is a world where he has another great season in 2020. I'm okay with missing out on that because all I got to look at is 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018 where he was horrible. I'm okay with missing out on 2020 if he has the same kind of season that he had in 2019. I'm going to play the law of averages here.
I will blame some of that on Gase.
Fine. That's okay. I'm okay missing out on it because I don't believe in Devante Parker.
So I'm not completely out on him, but I'm not sold on him as like I don't think he's going to be like a top end wide receiver, like a top 12 wide receiver. Like
he needs to drop into the double digit rounds for me to draft him. Ooh. 10th round, I would draft Devante Parker, and I know he will not be there. No, I'm not delusional
because I would grab him probably in the 8th or 9th for sure.
Yeah,
8th, probably 9th for sure. Preston Williams is also there though, and this is a guy I actually really like. So they have other wide receivers there, but Preston Williams is the number 2 wide receiver in my opinion. He emerged as a week 1 starter for Miami, and he held on to that for 6 weeks before he was injured. He averaged 11.4 fantasy points per game in PPR, which put him on a path to be ranked the 36th wide receiver on the season if he continued that stat line and didn't get hurt. He ended up tearing his ACL, so he should be ready right around the time the season starts. We'll see if he is. I believe he will be. As long as he is, though, he's going to be battling people like Allen Hurns and Albert Wilson, but he's my favorite to secure that spot as the wide receiver too. And I think since you're getting him basically free, I don't mind taking a shot on Preston Williams at the end of the draft.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Allen Hurns.
Yeah, Albert Wilson, I think slightly, but I'm definitely on board Preston Williams' side of that argument.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into the tight ends. I'm pretty sure this will be pretty brief all around here. For Buffalo, Dawson Knox. He's coming into his 2nd season. I think that this kid has some serious potential. I don't think that he will threaten to be a top 12 tight end, even though that's pretty easy to do. I just don't think there's enough to go around here for Dawson Knox to be all that fantasy relevant. The only way Dawson Knox becomes fantasy relevant is if for some reason Josh Allen stops running the ball at the goal line and starts throwing it. If that were to happen, this 254-pound, 6'4" tight end could become fantasy relevant. So just pay attention to that. He might be somebody to pick up later on in the season if you're struggling with your tight end and it seems that he's getting goal line targets. And then, Justin, your turn. Can you go faster than that?
I can. The New England tight ends are Matt LaCosse and Devin Asiasi. I still don't know if that's a correct pronunciation.
It's Asiasi.
Neither one of these guys are Gronk. Neither one of these guys are going to be fantasy relevant. Matt LaCosse is their starting tight end as of right now, and he's a gap filler between Gronk and Asiasi. So if you're in a dynasty league, Asiasi is a great pick. Outside of that, then he is not, and neither is LaCosse. If you're in redraft, just avoid both these players.
I'm glad you brought up Asiasi as dynasty. I do like him in dynasty. All right, for the Jets, Chris Herndon. I actually like Chris Herndon quite a bit here. In 2018, he had 502 yards and 4 touchdowns. That was his rookie season. It was great. He dealt with suspension and then injury last season, so he only played 1 game, and he only played briefly in that game. Chris Herndon has a knack for getting down the field. I actually think Chris Herndon could be a sneaky top 12 play here this season. You don't need to draft him there. You probably don't even need to draft him. Um, that's not no, that's not totally true. He will probably be drafted, but you could get him pretty late. He's one
I
of these
don't think
guys.
he will be drafted.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I don't think he hasn't been in most of the mock drafts that I've done.
Great. Yeah, I think Chris Herndon can creep into the top 12 here. I actually do. It's not hard to beat a top 12 tight end, and Chris Herndon has the athletic ability and the talent to do it. So, I mean, honestly, 700 yards and 6 touchdowns, and that's probably a top 12 tight end. So,
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's kind of forgotten about.
yeah. Okay.
I got Mike Gesicki. His current ADP is the 12th round as per ADPcalculator.com. I don't believe that. At least not if you use Sleeper or ESPN or NFL or any of the places I've done. He's been in the last round literally every draft that I've done, been available. He's one of my favorite tight ends if I have, like, let's say I'm the first person in the first few picks of the draft and I wait until the very last round to get my tight end. He almost every time he ends up on my team in that situation. I have him ranked pretty low, obviously not a top end tight end, but he's one of those tight ends that can break into the top 12. We saw flashes of him at the end of last year. I expect Miami's overall production to be better, but he was really inconsistent. That's my issue with him. That's why it's not a safe pick, but he should be there at the end, and he's a guy that could pan out for you if you wait until the very end of the draft to grab your tight end. I have a huge tier break after Gesicki in my rankings, so there's after him it's pretty bleak. But I will say, after this episode, I'm going to be moving Herndon probably right up in that range with Gesicki.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to clarify, the reason that I screwed up his ranking there, I was looking at his bye week, which is week 11, which is right next to the ranking. And I was like, wow, he's ranked 11. Maybe he's being drafted higher. That is not accurate. He is the 21st ranked tight end currently, which is not where he should be. Jack Doyle ahead of him, I disagree. Eric Ebron, disagree. Blake Jarwin, disagree. Yeah, he's around 15, 16. I think that's a good spot for him.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right on, man.
All right, and so we're going to close out this segment next or on Saturday with our NFC East, which should be exciting, the last part. So just if anyone is thinking of signing to the NFC East anytime soon, Freeman, I'm looking at you. Go ahead and do it before Saturday.
Please, that would be great. Justin, don't we have a sponsor to shout out?
Yes, we do. So last year, it was actually our first sponsor ever. Fantasy Go gave us an opportunity, which we greatly appreciate. And now they've come back this year. So make sure you guys go to fantasygo.com and you guys can sign up on there and you can hire your favorite analyst, which could be us or it could be someone else if you don't like us, but my feelings will be hurt. To set your lineup weekly. So it's a pretty cool website they have, and I believe they're launching their app this before the start of this season. So
not only set your lineup, but in some cases even have the ability to chat with your favorite expert to just get advice, and you can set your own lineup. So it's pretty cool. So go ahead and check it out.
Yeah, and thank you Fantasy Go for sponsoring the show. And we'll see you guys on Saturday.